Some examples of dealing with complex fractions. We have these complex fraction expressions, and we can simplify these expressions. So first of all, we just need to make sure that we state restrictions because we cannot divide by zero in any algebraic expression. So I'm just going to state my restriction here. So I'm going to say that a is not equal to -3 because I have a divide here. I also have a divide by y, so we also have to state that y is not equal to 0. So we have to remember that we cannot divide by 0, so we always need to state the restrictions. So once I've done that, well, if you know your algebraic complex fractions, we could just simply cancel a couple terms out. We could just say that these a plus 3 factors cancel, and we're left with x over y. That would work. If that's hard to follow, we could do some other strategies. So for example, if I have a divide in the numerator, I can multiply to get rid of that divide. Now, I can't just multiply the numerator, but as long as I balance it, in this case, I'm going to balance it with a multiply in the denominator. So I end up with a plus 3 over a plus 3, which is just multiplying by 1. But that allows the denominator in the numerator to cancel out. It allows the denominator in the denominator to cancel out there. And then we end up with x in the numerator over y in the denominator. So there's a few different strategies that we can use. So one of them is to get rid of a divide in a complex fraction with a multiplication. This one here, again, we need to make sure that we state our restrictions first. Okay, anything that's a divide, so there's a divide by a, so a cannot be equal to 0. There's a divide by x minus 1, so x cannot be equal to positive 1. Once I've stated my restrictions, any divide by zeros, I can then see if I can simplify this. Now, this one here, I'm going to do this one by just putting the times on top and the divide factors on bottom. So I'm just going to identify which are my times. So that's a times here. This is under 2 divisors, so that's also a times. The a is under 1 divisor, so that's a divide. This 2 is under 1 divisor, so that's a divide. So then it's going to look like this. So I'm going to put my 2x factor in the numerator, an x minus 1 factor in the numerator, and in the denominator, I'm going to end up with a times 2 and a times a. I'm going to simplify this expression by canceling out my divide times 2 divide 2, and I'm going to end up with x minus 1 over a. And usually it's better to leave things in factored form. In F, this one here, I notice that I've got a divide factor in the numerator a plus 3, and I've got a divide factor in the denominator is a plus 3. So one of the things I can do is I can multiply by a plus 3 in the numerator. That's a denominator in the numerator. Those will cancel. I've got a denominator in the denominator, so I've got an a plus 3 here. And that allows me to balance the fraction, which then is basically multiplying by 1. And this is going to allow me to cancel out some factors. So when I cancel these out, I just have to be a little bit careful what I have left. So I'm going to have an a plus 3. A plus 3's will cancel. Here and here, here and here. So then I'm going to do this in steps. So right now I have 2x plus 1 in a complex fraction with a denominator of x, my main divisor. Then I have a divide by 2, divide by a minus 3, and then a divide. So that's going to be x in the denominator. Now, if you recognize this situation, we can cancel these out. Okay, if you don't, we can always try getting rid of those new divides, because I have two divides in the numerator and denominator, and those will balance out with the times x in the top, times x in the bottom. Those will cancel out, and then I end up with 2x plus 1 over 2 bracket a minus 3, and I forgot to set my restrictions, so I should go back a few steps here, and before I cancel anything, state my restrictions. X is not equal to 0, a is not equal to negative 3, this is a divide as well, so a cannot equal positive 3. This is a divide by x, divide by a plus 3. I've already got those, so I've taken care of all the divide factors with my restrictions here. And I should have done that at the beginning, not at the end, because I have to see, before I cancel anything, I need to state my restrictions.